Today, I talk about iOS 6, iPhones, location, and privacy. Welcome to TQA Weekly. I'm your host, Steve Smith, aka Z-Axis, and yes, you may call me that. And if you ever have any computer questions, comments, suggestions, and or stories, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com. I'm going to be talking about iPhones, privacy, and location. The notes for that are at tqaweekly.com/SE3EP13. If you're on YouTube, it's down below. Thank you for subscribing and or watching this show. And just to point something out, this is relevant to anybody that has a 3GS, 4S, or the brand new iPhone 5. And with the very latest iOS 6. So completely patched up. All the menus I referred to are built for iOS 6. So first, before we jump in, a word of warning. You may be paranoid, you may be scared, but for all of your collective sanity, and just in case there is ever an emergency, do not, under any circumstance, turn everything about location services off. I'll tell you which ones you can, and the rest, just leave them on. I'll explain how to see whenever those other services are being used. So, to figure out what the location services are and which ones are currently tracking your location is not very hard. Just go to the settings application in your iOS device. From there, you will scroll down and select privacy, and under this, you will see location services. It's got a master switch on and off. Either everything's on, or everything is off, or so you would think. So this master switch has settings. It can be all on, but you ultimately decide which application can figure out what can see your location. So you can turn everything off or turn that master switch on and just have the weather. That's basically what it comes down to. You select which applications can see your location. And yes, I know, it can be annoying. Some applications absolutely want to know your location. But unless it has to do with you being somewhere and proving you took a picture somewhere, or you trying to figure out what the weather is, you don't really need them to figure out where you are anyway. So you don't need things arbitrarily asking for your location. And if they want your location or you can't see the content, don't see the content. Delete the app. It's their problem. And of course, my podcast doesn't end there. Go down to the bottom of that page. At the bottom of this page is something a little bit more mysterious. The System Services menu. This menu contains on-off tabs for things such as the call network search, which you know turns on every time you turn on your cell phone, which allows you to figure out where the closest towers are. This kind of GPS location allows you to avoid having dropped calls by actually determining which towers are closest to you and automatically switching over. You have compass calibration that allows you to use your GPS better and more accurately. You have diagnostic and usage, which is great for your phone company to figure out whatever issues is currently happening, what's happening, how much usage is getting out of the network and stuff. You have Genius for apps, which is usually best to figure out, compared to which apps and the people around you, what apps are you most likely to like. You have location-based ads, which basically uses your location to figure out which ads are more relevant to you. Setting time zone, that's how it's written, basically figures out what time it is where you are right now. And traffic, absolutely great if you're using your cell phone as a GPS to figure out what the traffic is. Now, here's the thing. Genius for apps, you can turn it off. Location-based iAds, you can turn it off. Traffic, you can turn it off. And setting time zone, you can turn it off if you want the wrong time, but it won't change very much. The rest of it, leave it on. Otherwise, you'll have drop calls, lots of issues. And my final point on that specific issue, you may actually impair your ability to be found in any kind of emergency. At least since 2002, most cell phones have been using either GPS or assisted GPS in order to find victims or people in dangerous situations. It allows emergency centers to actually send the police, fire department, or any other emergency type crew to the correct location. Handicapping your phone is not only bad for you, it's dangerous. So do not turn the rest of those things off. Especially if you're in a moving car and you turned off your call network search, you may very well drop an emergency call. Something you don't want to do. So we know we don't want to turn those off. What happens if we actually want to know if they're actually currently running? Well, at the bottom of that is something known as the status bar icon. Now, obviously, this is not a very descriptive name for that button, but it is at the bottom of the system services menu, and it explains very well what it's for. It allows anyone who turns it on, it is off by default, by the way. Anybody who turns this on will know whenever any system or application in your phone, your iOS device, wants to know your current location. So whenever something successfully asks the phone where you are right now, you'll have an icon turned on in the top right corner, and only when it's being used. If you don't see that icon once that button is turned on in the corner, you're not being tracked. Your phone, for all intensive purposes, is asleep. So, like I said, don't turn everything off, because that's actually bad and very dangerous for your safety and just in case of emergencies, and you will end up with a lot more drop calls turning everything off. And just make sure you stay safe. Next week, I'll be explaining why I hate Internet Explorer from a web developer point of view, from a consumer consuming the internet point of view, from a security standpoint, and you know what? Even from the standpoint of they're the only company that does not upgrade their browser based on the standards, but based on the operating system. So I'll get into all of that. But of course, if you want to share suggestions, audio, video, stories, email me at ask@tqaweekly.com. You have until Friday. Otherwise, I'm going to be talking about what I believe on this subject. Of course, it is always from my point of view, but I want to see, hear, even share what your point of view is. Remember to like this episode if you're interested in today's topic. Share if you think someone else could benefit from this topic, and subscribe if you wish to learn more. For the show notes of this episode and others, for information on how to subscribe to our show by other means, subscribe to our newsletter, and participate by submitting your questions, comments, suggestions, and or stories, head over to tqaweekly.com. Stay safe and online, and have a great day.